We were really curious about how Penn State's punt game
Yeah.
would do against Rutgers and Janarian Grant, who was coming off a monster game against Washington State, and they excelled. I thought they were one of the punting game was one of the highlights of Penn State's win over Rutgers. Janarian Grant never got any chances to punt, or excuse me, to return punts. But more important, James Franklin made a change at the punting position, going with Chris Gula instead of Danny Pasquarello, and obviously it worked out. James Franklin is really excited about his special teams.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made that that was the biggest personnel change James Franklin and his staff have made since they got here. I mean, it was woeful for all, the first 2 games of this season and really the end of last season and all of that. Yes, last season wasn't great, but Chris Gullah, a guy that remember he started last year.
Yeah.
People forget that, and he was not very good.
He
they
was
brought in
not.
Pasquarello. He was a little bit better, but not great. And if Gula has really figured this thing out, Penn State has a weapon now, a punter, that it hasn't had for some time.
Yeah, and with the speed that they have to cover kicks, all they're asking their kickers really to do is kick it 40 yards and kick it high. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but Penn State has not been able to do that, or did not do that in the first 2 games. They did it against Rutgers. Let's see how Gula does in Week 4 against San Diego State. But there's more to the special teams, I think, than just Chris Gula. James Franklin offered a lot of praise kind of out of nowhere for Nick Scott, not so much in the kick return game, which he does well, but as a kickoff coverage man.
Yeah. When you look at Nick Scott, this is a kid that came out of Fairfax, Virginia. He was a running back, but he also played safety. He's very well adept at using his speed to not only carry the football, but also use it to get in position to hit somebody. When he hits somebody, it's pretty good for a running back. This kid is really talented, and he obviously is a past Koa Farmer in that kick return duty as well.
Yeah, I think it's also a way, James Franklin is quite the psychologist.
Yeah.
It's also his way of kind of appeasing kids that are not really in the running back rotation now, that aren't hanging their heads, they are contributing. I think that's James's way of saying, hey, we appreciate the effort because you're probably not going to get the ball because Quan Barkley's really good. One other thing I thought that was interesting is he was talking about the place kicking, and that's where the big toe comes in, also on kickoffs, Joey Julius. But he had some interesting things to say, I think, about the backup place kicker.
Yeah, he mentioned that if they had to, whether it be performance injury or otherwise, that Tyler Davis, the walk-on from Indiana, would be able to come in. He feels like come in the game and do just fine. It was sort of a comment out of left field, quite honestly. Joey Julius has looked good in every aspect of kicking. It was sort of an interesting
got that interesting little way of approaching field goals that I think people are starting to love.
Yeah, and he just kind of flicks it too. It's really an interesting kicking style, but it works for him. It really does. And obviously, he's he has yet to come out to kick and not get a reaction nationally on social media, just for everything he's able to do.
Let's go with that. I just think it's really neat that since I've been covering the team, I can't really remember a lot of years, Greg, where special teams was really a weapon for Penn State. It's been very rare. Last year and even under Bill O'Brien, the special teams were, I really thought, a liability.
Oh, yeah.
With the speed Penn State has, their commitment to playing young players, and the specialists starting to play better, I think as the season moves on, Penn State can count on special teams to make some plays. Yeah. I mean, they could actually win a couple games, some tight games that maybe they would have lost in years past.
Yeah, I can't recall a time when Penn State was able to use all 4 aspects of its special teams to win. But they're getting consistent touchbacks on kickoffs. They're getting consistent. Well, they did at least against Rutgers. It's not consistent yet, but they got encouraging performance punting. Their coverage team has been great. And they're going to pop one of these returns for a touchdown here at some point. I don't think it's a matter of when, but if.
Yeah. Now listen, Chris Gula and Nick Scott and Joey Julius. We just praised you for 3 or 4 minutes, so do not let us down against San Diego State.